Kaos is like the conditions necessary for growth. You take a rubber tree outside of the Amazon and you put it in the desert and that motherfucker not gonna grow. And you take a cactus and you put it in the Amazon and that motherfucker not gonna grow. Everything requires the proper conditions.
Few artists have managed to blur the lines between R&B, rock, and high art quite like Miguel. Since the release of his debut album, All I Want Is You, in 2010, he's carved out a lane that's completely, entirely his own. Part futuristic, part romantic, all fire. His 2012 album, Kaleidoscope Dream, furthered his mission and didn't just make him a household name, it redefined what modern R&B sounded like and could be. We all heard Adorn, the record's centerpiece, a song that sounds precisely like it came from a bygone era, but also sounded very much like the future. It was a song that cemented Miguel's place in the modern consciousness. It also earned Miguel his first Grammy.
You can't miss Weekend 2. It was like,
but he didn't have an Adorn.
Right.
I think over the years, he's become more than a musician. He's become an architect of a very particular type of mood. Someone whose albums and visuals and performances all orbit a single idea, that of connection. Whether he's experimenting with psychedelia on Wild Heart, or exploring spirituality on War and Leisure, or collaborating across genres, he's never been afraid to evolve. Now, after years of quiet reflection and reinvention and addition to his family, Miguel is back. He's back with a brand new album called Kaos, one that feels like both a return to form and a bold new beginning. It's a project that pulls from every past version of Miguel. The dreamer, the believer, the provocateur. We sit down with Miguel.
I'm not a coffee snob.
And we talk about how this album came to be, the pain he had to reckon with in order to make it, what he's learned about creativity, about loss, what he's gained over the years.
Damn, bro. The insight, I wasn't expecting that, dude.
It's really a conversation that I didn't expect, and one that I don't think he also expected. We can take 5.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He talks about where he is now and where he hopes to bring his audience going forward. I hope you enjoy.
What's up, y'all? Miguel here. This is On Record.
So Miguel, welcome to On Record. Thank you.
Happy to pull up and just kick it with you for a second, man. Thanks for making time. Just the sitting down and having a conversation is so hard now.
Yeah.
We have like so much to do. Everybody's busy. We got the world on top of us. News hitting us from every different angle. The moment you wake up out of bed, you're like, it's on.
I want to get into Kaos. You had us over to listen in the studio. But I left there after hearing you speak and I thought Sam Cooke. There's a quote of his that I love. If a singer tries to find out what's happening in life, it gives him a better insight on telling the story of the song he's trying to sing. Going into making Kaos, how did you parse out what goes in it, what does not?
I can't think of a more important need than for the music that we're hearing, at least to be some reflection of the time and the feeling of the experience. These are the kinds of things that made the body of work of Kaos really hard to hone, but where it was really clear was once El Pleito was like done, and I could kind of counter everything against that because I feel like that's the soul of the album. I think that introspection really made every offshoot in terms of conversation. It was an easy point of like, okay, this is the anchor, and like, what does this conversation in this song have to do with what I'm reflecting on in this song? And that actually made it really easy in the end. But it wasn't until I had that song that I really had a sense. And it's a trip how I've learned from my process, it is usually like a song that really, and I thought it was gonna be the title song, Kaos. But it ended up being a completely different song that anchored the whole thing and gave it a home base.
Can you talk more about that song?
El Pleito is a song about really the journey and the expense of and the sacrifice of purpose, of change, what it demands of us. You know, I think as a man, we realize every day that, okay, well, we're gonna have some responsibility in this world at some point. That hit hard in this last 2 years for me.
I think the album does well at framing the journey, but also taking like a snapshot of like, this is what's happening. Like all of the things that happened before have led to this moment. This moment is going to inform what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think makes it so powerful of a listen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, man. That's the feeling. The feeling now in this time, for me personally, like it's beautiful to think, man, you know, it's not that I got here on my own. I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for some chances taken.
Yeah.
For some unlucky happenings, you know, for some unforeseen occurrences, and we're here. Yeah. And it makes all of the challenges every day just a little less heavy, you know? And that's CAOS, you know? CAOS is like the conditions necessary for growth. You take a rubber tree outside of the Amazon and you put it in the desert and that motherfucker not gonna grow. And you take a cactus and you put it in the Amazon and that motherfucker not gonna grow. Everything requires the proper conditions.
Surprise on the album is you singing in Spanish.
Yeah.
Talk to me about how you arrived at the want to do that.
I grew up right where the projects start in San Pedro in Los Angeles. And at the time, in the late 80s, early 90s, like here in New York, you know, Latinos and blacks, like y'all, I mean, it's like everybody's together, it's all good. But in LA, in the 90s and the 80s, it was not like that. There was a lot of tension. And so it put me in the middle of that, and I got jumped a couple of times, and I got, you know, people hit me, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm between San Pedro and Inglewood. Inglewood at the time was crazy. Growing up, feeling like it was a burden, and then now looking back and going, wow, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of who I am, and actually the opportunity, the perspective. And in this time where I feel like what we need most is humanity and understanding. That meant the digging for this album, it needed to show up, that pride, that sense of self. But by and large, I think I needed it to feel like it was a part of my DNA and not a part of me trying to capture an audience. And that's, I think, what the big change was for me.
You know, there's definitely other albums like on Wild Heart where I think you hear some of it come through.
Yeah.
But it's not to the extent that you hear it now.
Yeah.
So that's definitely interesting to hear. In your mind, was there like a cap on how much social commentary you wanted to let bleed into the album? Was there ever a moment where you're like, this is getting too bleak?
Right.
Yeah. Even with the title of the album, it's like, was there a moment for you where like, I got to scale this back? I got to make some happy shit.
But I mean, it's a choice. It's a choice to go, all right, I'm gonna talk about my bullshit, you know, and the challenges and this and that. I'm really happy with the balance that it naturally kind of comes from the album. I think in the beginning, it was like, it felt like it was gonna just be a doomsday album. And I think a lot of people around me had a lot of trepidation about it being so heavy. And I think naturally it evolved to represent a more everyday sense of my personality. And that is that, you know, with, damn, that's crazy. I just realized something.
Please share.
I started this album with a very different outlook. And I think since starting and finishing the album, there's actually hope. Yeah, that's crazy. The album starts off like, I'm sure of my choices. I'm sure that I create chaos in my life because I prefer it that way. That's the line in Kaos, prefiero dolor sobre una vida sin color, which is like, I prefer all of the chaos, I prefer my pain instead of a life without color. And that very much was the way I was framing my choices, even when they were not healthy, you know, on different levels, whether it's like my relationships or avoidance, laziness, you know, just not really like hitting my potential. I think when you kind of rinse and repeat those patterns, it's easy to have a negative, kind of pessimistic outlook. And completing this album, I can absolutely say that my outlook is different.
Making the album changed your outlook.
Well, the album is a reflection of my outlook changing. It's work done incrementally, but I don't know why that hits hard today. Because I knew that in the end, there's still a positivity in the album. I don't know, today I just feel, it just dawned on me that, because I've been doing a lot of fucking work, man. Sometimes I should just feel like, are we going anywhere? You know, is it getting anywhere? We all have the opportunity and there's possibility to make real impactful decisions that push us forward. But today it's really hitting me that it's been a lot of work. I didn't want to keep going.
In what capacity?
I was tired, man. I think things have changed so much in such short order, like new changes. The culture, you know, the world has changed so much in the last 8 years, like 4 different times. I mean, I feel like different realities. I'm on different timelines.
Same.
Trying to keep up with the value of the work being depreciated systematically and going, man, it really is like the whole purpose of art now is like, it's just, the value is gone. You know, it's like the purpose is cannibalized by the business of everything. Everything's a business now. Everyone's a businessman.
It's all attention economy. If you can get people to pay attention, you can make money.
So music and fine art and dance and all of these things that were practices, that required practice, that required dedication and sacrifice, are now competing with just everyday attention. Just because today I felt like talking about whatever, you know? And I embrace the reality, but when you come from that a different version of reality where music has value, fine art has value, these things, practices have value, and require sacrifice to sort of also like give it the value, it's really hard. And so I kind of was like, I think I'm gonna just take a break. And I may have told a couple people in the process, like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, I need to find something else out. And I did find something else out.
What'd you find?
I found out that I could be a businessman and I could invest and I can put my money in places where it'll work for me. And I got lucky. You know, I found an audience early in and I have to say, I'm so grateful for the audience that I did find who've been really down. After that tapers off and you start to look at your time and your effort and the ROI, that's something that you start to learn when you get older, right? Your ROI, your return on investment. Damn is the day you start to look at the ROI. Really, that's the lens now.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the lens overall. And so the value of art and the sacrifice it requires just gets devalued, and it makes it hard to continue. Because I can't go and try and help people who want to do this on the daily if I'm not doing it for me too. And that was the beginning of it. And in that journey, I think that's what hit earlier is my outlook has changed. My outlook has changed. And it's actually a really beautiful thing.
You spoke about the sound kind of coming naturally from you. It sounds like all of that work informed this new sound. I'm curious how you would describe that sound.
Man, one of my best friends said this is the most angry and horny album I've ever heard you make, which I thought was appropriate. I would describe the album and the sound, I think, the most aggressive. I think overall it's aggressive and it's tender. If they can coexist, you know.
I think you do tender very well.
I think that's in the palette, and people who know my music will find there's a real desire to connect. Right. You know, and I think even when I'm talking about love or sex or intimacy in my previous work, there is a desire to be connected, you know, and it to feel real. The sound of this album though is really driven by the looking within and going, man, something is just not right. Even when I'm like, oh, every day is just, you know, it's back on my bullshit. I'm on my shit. You know, I'm doing my same flow. And I think at a certain point in these 8 years, I felt it and I was like, yeah, it's the same flow, but like something's not right. It's not hitting. Like this isn't gonna work for much longer, you know?
That's interesting because I think people, when they think of Miguel, they're like, everyone has a favorite song and they're like, oh, if he just, you know, it's like every artist actually. It's like, if they could just do this one thing forever,
Oh, man.
I would be so happy.
Oh my
But
goodness.
you kind of take it upon yourself to break new ground every album.
You know, I want to reflect that I'm a human being who is evolving, just like you or just like anybody. And I'm not a restaurant. You know what I mean? Like, you don't come to me when you want your favorite thing that you order off the menu, the one thing. And that's the relationship I want with my audience is deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a business, you know? And yes, I'm building a business off of my art, but what I propose to be is a human being that connects with his audience. And we're seeing by and large, like the great emerging talents, the talents who are really effective, they just do well to connect with their audience. They can evolve and be themselves however they want to be. Today it's rock and roll and tomorrow is whatever, country, and the next day it may be classical, but their connection with the audience is, I think, what makes the work valuable. Because again, it's attention and how you can wield it to your purpose now, right? So everyone does have a favorite. I think my work will always have those ones, you know? And I believe that there's a few on this album, on CAOS, but this is so much bigger than a one song, you know? I think that's why I have such gratitude for my audience that has stayed, because they see me as a human being and not as a restaurant.
New Martyrs feels like a bridge into this sound. Like, it feels like, oh, I know you're here, I'm gonna take you here, so like, walk across this with me and, you know, you'll understand where we're going.
It means a lot that you said that. It means a lot that you said that, because I feel the same way. I feel like that's pulling it all together, you know? With the exception of not speaking really any Spanish on the song, that song represents, even from All I Want Is You, kind of. And it's not that it was designed, it manifested itself naturally, you know?
Well, it's like the beginning of the journey for this particular project.
Yeah.
That's interesting. You have this quote where you talk about nostalgia when this album was coming out. You're saying like the feeling of nostalgia, but having it, you know, be new, but also feel as if you've always had this thing. And
Right.
I think Adorn is that song.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it feels.
Word.
First time I heard it, I remember thinking, this has to be a cover of something.
That's crazy.
You know, it has to be like an old Stevie song or an old Marvin song that I just never heard before.
That's a different kind of compliment. That's crazy. Thank you.
But it was brand new.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a crazy feat.
It still cuts through, it's crazy.
It's hard to turn it off when you start.
It's a banger, yeah. It's just, yeah.
How do you feel hearing it?
I definitely like, yep, still cuts through.
Yeah.
I have a thing about humility. I think in the past I'd be like, man, I was like, wow, like I'm so grateful. I'm like, no, it actually was never mine, you know? What that is a channeling of something bigger than me, and there's no humility for God. You know what I mean? That is the greatest, that is it, you know? Whatever happened in that moment of making that song, I have gratitude for. I have gratitude for my dedication to the love of the emotion of music, and also my unique desire to bring tenderness and also like, ugh. Yeah. I think I'm always searching for that, and that's in my music. It's like, I want it to be hard, but I also want it to be like tender, you know? And that song is probably the best, one of the best. I got it, you know? It's like, that's that balance, you know?
Can you take me back to when you wrote it?
That song started on a plane home. I was in New York for like a whole summer, you know, and I hadn't been home, got rid of my apartment, and I was going back. I was going back to my girl. And just the song, it just kind of was, that's where the song started. I was like, man, finally, like, okay, cool. Like, I just, you know, I was like hoping that she was happy to see me, and that's kind of where the song came back. You know, I think we've been beefing, you know, here and there, as you do, especially long distance. It was like, just let just let me
Let
me love you. Just let me love you.
Are you writing it on like in a notebook? Is there like a lyric book that you have? Like how are you actually?
So I had gotten away from writing things down because I found it slowed the process down, and it actually made what came out too clean, too like premeditated. You know, it was too on the nose, and it felt less like off the cuff and true. And so I had started not writing things down by All I Want Is You. That's no writing, nothing down. That's just like takes. You know, it's like me singing and just going, this came, and this came, and then okay, keeping that. And then I'm re-singing, or having whole things come. And Adorn is one of those songs on Kaos. There's a song called Near Sight that's very much just like stream of consciousness. It's just like one take and the song is there, you know?
What? So you're just on this flight constructing it in your head, just thinking these thoughts and like arranging them.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I've always loved this word, adorn. I'm like, no one's ever used that. And of course, like as a songwriter, you always want to do some fresh, you know, it's like, let me use a word or a phrase that's never been used. Adorn felt like the right word, and I had that, and the rest was just, I got home, it was late, I went straight in.
You produced it as well. So
Yeah.
The fidelity of your voice is so clear, and it's like, it's so high, right? You combining that with this kind of like scratchy, kind of like choppy, the juxtaposition of it is, I think, also what makes the song kind of what it is.
Man, really listening, really
Hey, man,
listening.
I'm a
Yeah,
fan.
I appreciate it. I appreciate that.
How did you approach the production of it?
Always searching for the counter to my tone, even in like mic choice,
Oh, interesting.
in the gear. Yeah, because coming off of All I Want Is You, which was very much you really did get the tone of my voice and the clarity in the song. I think I more naturally have a little more of an aggressive nature that's like understated.
Again, Sam Cooke, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever heard the Sam Cooke album where he performs live in Florida. The backstory is that they didn't put it out at the time because Sam Cooke was, you know, he was clean cut, you know, very handsome, beautiful voice.
And here he is
Like, here
talking.
he is in this club. The tone of his voice is so different. You know, he's like, it's like guttural.
Yeah.
The executives were like, you can't let white people hear you sing like this. This is crazy. Like, you know, you got to sing like that. But when he was around his people live, it was a completely different thing. I don't think people who don't see you live get that part of you.
Right.
Right? Get the like what Miguel, the rawness that can come out on stage. So it's interesting to hear you identify that in your own vocal abilities.
Man, I did not know that this was gonna be like you're like really listening to listening. This is so rare now. Like that is deeply insightful, and thank you for that. And the emotional depth in Adorn is, I think, one of the things that make it stand out is that previous to the song, the tone you're hearing from my work is much cleaner and prettier. There's a little bit of aggression in the tonality of the guitars on the first album. You know, there's a little bit of that, but it's almost in the context of like funk, as it sort of like parallels Prince's exploration. You know, Prince's sort of exploration with the guitar, right? So on the first album, it's so much more of a like, oh, like this is where you're pulling from, you know. Whereas with Adorn, I'm sort of breaking into like, okay, but this is my ability.
Right.
Let me show you my ability.
That's interesting.
It's those keys. It started with those keys, the chord changes, and a really simple rhythm that just comes back. I was just kind of going with like, you know what? I'm not trying to be the dopest producer. I want to be a great songwriter, and so let me produce a rhythm that just keeps you here.
From the jump.
Every eight, yeah. And I think that keeps you locked in, but the glue in that song is the 808 and the sub. Woo, 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 woo. Once that was there, like, it was hard enough where the melody could just float on top. And so I didn't have to say much. It was just about the message.
How do you think that song changed, if you think the song changed your career?
The amount of involvement of like a major record label, and the amount of money that they have to spend to get records, artists broke, and in the public view You know, at the time, it was a very different game. That song sort of represents a real change in trajectory and perception.
You got more freedom going forward.
And to be fair, it wasn't that I didn't have freedom. It was that I was taking control across the board. So that song is symbolic of my ownership of my artistry on a professional level. Because I was doing it creatively. It's not that anyone was limiting me, but I was also not making the choices of the producers I was working with necessarily. It was like, oh, you should work with these people because they did A, B, and C. And I was like, all right, cool. At this point, I'm like, no, the whole meal is me. So the vision of that song is representative of the juxtaposition that I always wanted to pair.
When this album came out, certain R&B stars were like on the downward. There were these new guys coming up. The competition was like you and Frank Ocean. It was like, who's gonna like lead us into the future?
You can't miss Weekend too. It was like it was kind of a.
But he didn't have an Adorn.
Right.
I think I would love to hear your take on where R&B and black music, non-rap black music was at that time when you were creating this.
Very different landscape. Music was skewing more indie. I remember indie music being crazy, especially because I was spending a lot of time here in New York. So between 2006 and 2012 and 13, on the like emerging artist side, the exciting music was coming from independent bands and artists. A lot of independent hip hop, a lot of independent rock and roll bands, and I feel like R&B was needing a less cliche. It was demanding a less cliche approach. At the time, this is what R&B music was. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That was the status quo, and that had already been done. Jodeci already been done. Boyz II Men already been done. And then when you look before them in terms of R&B, all the solo artists, Luther, Prince, Michael, all of that, who are all representative of the you know what I mean, of the genre. That was already done, So it was demanding a new approach. Man, I can look at it and say, I can hear our influence in the music now.
Of course.
It's dope. It's really dope to see it and to see where people are, where artists are taking it and how they've evolved on that. But it was a fun time because we were making it up and I was making it up as I went.
Running around the city and hearing how many drinks in the club was fucking magical. Yeah. Magical time.
Yeah, that's a lot of great college moments for some people. Also, I think there's a lot of babies made at that time too that I'm not.
The last thing I would love to hear you talk about is the Grammy win.
So I was in the car on the way. The genre was kind of new, and there was a new genre for like alternative R&B, right? But for the song, I won the Grammy in the car. So receiving the Grammy was the right nod at the time. I couldn't put into perspective the weight in the marketplace, how that affects the bottom line, So it's a great thing to have, especially just on the business side, but it's not a need to have, especially not now. I think listen, we want more Grammys. Like, look, I'll tell you another Grammy, let's go, absolutely. I think, we want to be recognized by our peers. It was a blessing in a different way because it gave the work a different kind of weight, and it also wasn't so much that it put me in a headspace where I did it. It was like, it was a wink from God. It was like, I see you, keep going.
Miguel, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure, but thank you.